Citizen Kane is often said to be the best film ever made, and it changed the industry unlike any other film. But did you know that this movie only got made because of one big successful prank? Citizen Kane is surrounded by a lot of controversy. At the same time, a lot of people nowadays are saying that this film is overrated. I think this is one of the most creative, interesting and best films ever made, even today. And here's why I find it to be so fascinating. Citizen Kane tells the story of a famous media mogul. After saying a mysterious word on his deathbed only moments before passing away, a journalist embarks on a mission to uncover the secret behind all that, turning this movie into a real deconstruction of the alpha male character. This film flopped back when it came out, but it wasn't long until it became really a classic that shaped all the films, all the American films that came after that, influencing the greatest filmmakers of all time like Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg. I think this is a truly timeless film that surpasses the visuals of most films being released today. And the story has the complexity and the mystery of something like a Christopher Nolan film. Now, why is this film so controversial? Well, this most influential film was directed by a 25-year-old first-time director called Orson Welles, and I don't know about you, I'm 24. That's just crazy to me. Wells started his career as a radio host at RKO in 1938, and he wanted to do like a radio program that was new, innovative and just exciting and spectacular for the audience. So he took the classic science fiction alien invasion novel War of the Worlds. So what he did was he took the fictional alien invasion story and prepared a radio program that told it like it was a real news report. And during the airing of this program, like, American listeners went crazy. They actually thought, okay, alien apocalypse is here. We have to prepare, we have to flee our homes, we have to get our guns and prepare just to protect ourselves from these aliens. Mass chaos broke out, people were terrified, and Orson Welles really blurred the line between fact and fiction and exposed the manipulative power of the media that's still raging and present up until today with the internet. This was eventually, of course, exposed, and Orson Welles got this huge hype as a creative genius and master storyteller, giving him a Hollywood movie contract that was like unheard of before, that gave him complete creative freedom with a big budget for his first feature film. And this is where the controversy started, because up until that point nobody got a contract like that with complete creative freedom. And even nowadays most directors, most screenwriters really have to incorporate the feedback of the producers and of the studio, and if they want changes to be made, they have to do it. Even if the director is like famous, there are only a handful that have this full creative freedom, especially on a big budget. And Citizen Kane is probably responsible for the reason so many people, film fans nowadays, believe in the so-called auteur theory, where the director is the most important part of a movie. And it makes sense because films like Citizen Kane proved, okay, if you give certain directors full creative freedom, there's a great movie that's coming out of that, even if that's not always the case. Another controversial topic is when it comes to the question of who actually wrote the screenplay of Citizen Kane. Orson Welles collaborated with Herman J. Mankiewicz, and up until today it is really strongly debated who wrote more of the screenplay, who contributed more. And this topic is something that David Fincher tried to tackle with his film Mank. Citizen Kane actually flopped first when it came out. The critics loved it, said it was a masterpiece, but regular audiences had a really difficult time connecting to the innovative new kind of imagery and the really weird structure of the storytelling. But a large reason for that flop was that the movie had really a lot of similarities to the newspaper publisher William Randolph Hearst, and a lot of movie theaters were actually scared of showing Citizen Kane because he was so influential and they didn't want any beef with him. And also Citizen Kane was supposedly booed at the Oscars. Now, I don't know if that's true, but Orson Welles, being just 25 years old and making this film that was like everywhere and was like so innovative, I can just imagine that he had a lot of haters back then. Ever since Orson Welles, there hasn't really been any director at that age who has been so successful. The film's influence is still felt today. If you're seeing this film for the first time, it will probably feel like you've already know the film because so many films after that have stolen from Citizen Kane. Many big directors say that this is one of their favorite films and that their own films are highly influenced by Citizen Kane. I mean, you have Scorsese, Spielberg, Kubrick, Linklater, the Coen brothers. I mean, the list goes on and on. But the more film historical aspects aside, does Citizen Kane still hold up as a watching experience today? I remember seeing this film for the first time when I was a teenager, and I was like really bored by it. And I recently rewatched it now in my 20s. I was so impressed by how the story was told and the whole visual language and style. Citizen Kane is to me a kind of best of cinema, at least up until 1941, because any technique, anything that was any innovation of the cinematic art form up until that point can be found in the film. Citizen Kane has such a rich buffet of visuals, like every single frame is unique and interesting. Of course, filmmakers nowadays can do way more than they did back then, but still, if you take something like filmmaking and just execute the basics really well, it still holds up. It's still that amazing because filmmaking is so powerful. You don't need to have everything being up to date in order to hold up. A lot of people also nowadays claim that the film is like boring, unemotional and cold. And again, I look back into the reception back in the day and people were saying the same things about Citizen Kane back then as they are doing now. So that's, to me, is proof that Citizen Kane did hold up really well. And I think that the story itself is really relevant today because like they tell you the whole life story of Kane within the first couple of minutes, and the rest of the film becomes an exploration of a person compared to what the media and other people are saying and claiming about a person. Nowadays we would call a character like Kane like an alpha male or lone wolf, a man that is defined by if he's at the top of his game, and like most men that are like this, and I was in part like that for a long period of my life, they have a certain emptiness inside of them, and they have like little boys issues inside of them, you know what I'm saying? And they have like a hole they are trying to fill, and the core of Kane's motivation is kind of his trauma and lost childhood that he's trying to make up by these big accomplishments in order to prove himself that he is valuable and that he is worth something. That leads me to the next question, like why are famous rich people so often so miserable? I mean, there are people out there who have all the opportunities, like financial freedom and everything, and still they commit suicide and do like these horrible, unbelievable things like we're hearing the last couple of months with these Diddy trials. Actually, the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible has an interesting statement to that. It says that there is an evil that I have seen under the sun, and it lies heavy on mankind. A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions and honor, so that he lacks nothing of all that he desires. Yet God does not give him the power to enjoy them, but a stranger enjoys them. This is vanity, it is a grievous evil. What if you have like power, talent, money, but you aren't able to enjoy it? Suddenly all you're left with are just the negative aspects of all of that. That's why to whom much is given, much is tested at the same time. We have seen so many geniuses throughout history just go too far and lose themselves and have like these tragic endings to their lives. And it becomes easy to judge from the outside because as someone who's not in their shoes, it's kind of a mystery. And Citizen Kane does such a good job in exploring this kind of mystery and the poisoning power of ambition and greed. Alright guys, this is it from my review of the classic film Citizen Kane. What do you think about this film? Do you think it holds up? Do you think it's overrated? Let me know in the comments. I thank you so much for your time and attention and wish you all a blessed day, and I hope to have you back in my next video.